Yeah, hello everyone. In this session, we are going to discuss what are the sulfonamides and sulfones, which are basically antibacterial agents and known to act against certain gram positive and gram negative microbacteria. So those we are going to discuss in this topic. These are basically a kind of antibacterial agents, a kind of substances which are going to act against the bacteria. Maybe and somehow they are showing the good actions against gram positive bacteria and gram negative bacteria. So our discussion majorly only what are these antibacterial agents and so on, and what are the different classifications, so that we can educate ourselves with mostly what are so called these substances which can show the antibacterial activity. Okay, so very quickly we shall be jumping to this. But before that, we will like to go through the kind of history behind the development of several sulfonamides. So these are the two scientists, Bruce Smith and Joseph Clara, from this IG laboratories. They have synthesized azodides as a potent antibacterial agents before 1932. So they were the pioneers for the discovery of these azodides having a nitrogen doubly bonded structure into themselves. They show the actions against microbial organisms. Because microbial organisms are responsible for causing several kinds of these pathogenic conditions. Then in 1932, about 80 years before, 90 years before then Gerhard Domen, he was a bacteriologist who has discovered this Prantocin from Bayer company. So he basically belongs to this company called Bayer, and from there he has tried to synthesize some of the compounds. These are the structures that are being displayed over here. You can see that this is nothing but a diphenyl azobenzene, right? Or you can simply say kind of diazodides, because their structures is having two nitrogens having a double bond with each other. So one of the any benzene ring is having one 3-diamino substitutions, and other benzene ring is substituted with SO2 and H2, sulfonamide. So carboxamide is basically CONH2, and sulfonamide is no more than SO2 and H2. Okay, so that's why this prantosine is basically a kind of substance which is obtained from a brilliant red colored dye. Dye is nothing but it is a kind of substance which is used in color industry, dyeing industry. Many of the chemicals are also have found their applications in color industry, in dye industry. Okay. And this is a substance which was found effective, very much effective against this Staphylococcus infections, which is created in this. Okay, so the major purpose behind this is that Gerhard Domek, he is this gentleman, Gerhard Johannes Paul Domek, born on October 30th of 1895 to April 24th. So he has discovered the same concept during 1932, and he discovered this substance, Prantosol, which is a red color. Brilliant red means dark red color. Then 1 year later, another scientist, Forrester found the use of this Prantosol in bacterial infections, in the treatment, in the cure disease caused by bacteria. Then in 1935, another scientist whose name is Trefall, so he has studied structure activity relationship of sulfonamides, azodides, and have reported the reductive cleavage of prantosine antibacterial sulfonamide. So here the concept of this prodrug, also educate take some of these lectures and sessions on prodrugs, where we are going to learn and discuss what are the several prodrugs and basically inactive metabolites enter into our body will be metabolized to active species. These active metabolites are the key concerns for demonstrating somehow kind of bacteria or whatever the pharmacological action. So parent molecule itself is inactive, but metabolites are called as active substances. In 1934, Trifol has studied the SAR of this substance. And what they are doing in SAR in structure activity relations. That is, if they have hydrogen over here, they are replacing this hydrogen with fluoro, bromo, iodine. And then they are checking what is the effect on antibacterial activity. 1937, Fuller was a person that he has isolated free sulfonamide from the patient of the blood who have been given prontosil. That this modern era of prodrugs started initiated. This is the basically history, and this is a gentleman called Raman. So he was awarded with the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine because of his pioneering works on prontosil in the year 1947. So look at this. Within by 1948, more than about 4,500 derivatives of sulfonamides have been synthesized and tested. Few of the sulfonamides are used clinically as well. So this is the number till 1948. In 2021 or even more than that, there are a number of derivatives, maybe lakh, 2 lakh, or whatever. I'm not sure what can be the derivatives of sulfonamides have been synthesized till the time. Lot of people have worked on this. Because of एक बार किसी को success मिलती है ना, people are crazy behind that. Oh, don't focus on other area, focus on only this area. That exactly happened in 1947. This gentleman was given awarded with the Nobel Prize. So people started working on sulfonamides. Most of the sulfonamides they themselves are inactive, but they will undergo into the body and they will be metabolized oxidation, reduction, hydrolysis, or whatever. Then they demonstrate their biological activity. That's why some of the sulfonamides, which are prodrugs, and they are used clinically as well. Let us jump to this beautiful concepts of this sulfonamides and sulfur classification on the nomenclature. Nomenclature of sulfonamide. So nomenclature is a word that basically means to give the name. जैसे बच्चा पैदा होता है ना तो माँ बाप उसका नाम रखते हैं. In the past, people used to give the name of the newborn babies from the signs or some characteristics observed in the babies. And it was like that, जैसा नाम वैसा काम. So that way they were given the name. But in today's era, नाम कुछ और होता है, काम कुछ और होता है, right? So that way, that is not a good way to name the forms, even to the human being as well. So just like we the people, given some names. Similarly, molecules, compounds, chemical structures are also given their names. But here, the names are given according to their structures. So that one can identify what is the structure. जैसा नाम वैसा काम तो बाद की बात है, but यहाँ पे जैसा नाम वैसा structure. So let us learn the nomenclature of several sulfonamides. Sulfonamides classified in these three types. aniline substituted sulfonamides. These are called as sulfonamide. Here you can see this is a class number 1 where a benzene ring is as substituted with NH2. So that is basically aniline NH2. And SO2NH2, that is sulfonamide. Here exactly this. So if we discuss this term sulfonamide, so that basically possess these three terms I would like to highlight in front of you so that you can at least learn from yourself. This is sulfur. That indicates the presence of sulfur and SO2 group. Another word is basically aniline. So that is, you can see this is sulfur, this is aniline, and the last most word that is amide. Though amide is applicable to CONH2, but in this case there is nothing called CONH2. In this case it is SO2NH2. These are somehow called as bioisosters, where chemically or electronic features are same, names are different. So this way they are given the names sulfonamide. Okay, so I hope that this will be clear to you people that aniline substituted sulfonamide. So this is aniline and their substituted sulfonamide is there. Prodrugs, the second class of the drug is basically prodrugs. So just we have seen that some of the people have identified that once they are giving some drug to the patient and patient is taking that drug and they are taking the blood sample, then in the blood sample they identify active sulfonamide. That was the era of beginning of prodrug. So in this case, here we are going to see these prodrugs. They basically metabolize to end up in an active sulfonamide. So this is the difference between the first class and the second class. First class is already sulfonamide. So this is sulfonamide. We are directly giving active drugs to the patients. Second class, where we are giving prodrugs, such as sulfasalazine. The sulfasalazine is basically mixture of this. You can see the colors, red color and the blue color. Red color is basically for sulfapyridine. Another substance is that this is meta-aminosalicylic acid. Okay, so sulfasalazine is basically inactive. That is not having any activity. But once it is given to the patient, it will go into the body and then it will metabolize to this drug called sulfapyridine. Now, sulfapyridine can exert antibacterial action. Okay. So this meta-aminosalicylic acid is released, and the salicylic acid is no use because it cannot demonstrate antifungal activity, or sorry, antibacterial activity. Sulfapyridine, this substance can exert this antibacterial activity. That's why meta-aminosalicylic acid and sulfapyridines are the active metabolites of sulfasalazine. Sulfasalazine basically is used in inflammatory bowel disease, kind of intestinal cancer, or we can also see an inflammatory disorder of GI tract. We can call it the same thing. The third substance, this one is called non-anilide kind of sulfonamide. Means here we have seen aniline. इसमें भी बेंजीन की रिंग पे नाइट्रोजन था, यहाँ पे बेंजीन की रिंग पे नाइट्रोजन दूसरे क्लास में भी. तीसरे क्लास में एनिलीन फिनाइल रिंग आपको देखने को मिलेगा, बट फिनाइल रिंग के साथ डायरेक्टली कोई NH2 अटैच नहीं है, तो ये एनिलीन नहीं है, इज नॉन एनिलीन. So that's why this is non-aniline kind of sulfonamide. We have also SO2NH functional group. That is that. But here, if you observe, then between this NH2 and this phenyl, there is a spacer, single carbon unit spacer called methylene CH2. That's why these are the three structures, are the three different kinds of the classes. This way, this total three kinds of functional groups are present, or we can observe for this sulfonamide. Are they sulfo, sulfanilamide, drugs, sulfasalazine, kind of this class, and third one is this non-aniline kind of sulfur. So these are the three substances. Example of their are right there, already there on your screen. The last molecule is muffinide acetate that is used in eye drops. It has shown its effects against the bacteria which can cause conjunctivitis or the inflammatory disease of the eye. Okay, so now coming to this one carbon pool metabolism, amidylate synthetase. Most of the sulfonamides, they are inhibiting this enzyme called thymidylate synthetase. What is thymidylate synthetase? This is the enzyme which is responsible for one carbon metabolism, conversion of deoxyuridine monophosphate to deoxythymidine monophosphate, DTMP. That way, they are showing that antibacterial activity. How it is being converted, ये जो structure है ना, that is uridine. यूरिडीन और थाइमिडीन में फर्क इतना ही है कि दोनों का स्ट्रक्चर सेम होता है, except at this position there is a presence of methyl in thymidine, but the same methyl is absent in uridine. So only this is the methyl is the difference between both of these structures. अब सवाल ये होता है कि जब यूरिडीन मोनोफॉस्फेट थाइमिडीन मोनोफॉस्फेट में कन्वर्ट होता है तो ये कार्बन कहां से आएगा? What is the source of this carbon? And that is none other than your tetrahydrofolic acid. It is called vitamin B9, vitamin B complex, this folic acid. फॉलिक एसिड में 4 हाइड्रोजन ऐड हो जाता है तो उसको बोलते हैं टेट्राहाइड्रोफॉलिक एसिड, एंड दिस टेट्राहाइड्रोफॉलिक एसिड इज कॉन्जुगेटेड विथ मिथिलीन, N5N10 methylene tetrahydrofolic acid. This tetrahydrofolic acid, N5N10 methylene tetrahydrofolic acid, and deoxyuridine monophosphate will react in the presence of thymidylate synthetase enzyme to synthesize this deoxyuridine thymidine monophosphate. ये deoxy इसलिए बोलते हैं क्योंकि ये sugar that is ribose sugar. Back to your biochemistry by Satyanarayan, and you will come to know this is basically somehow called nucleotide. When a sugar phosphate group nitrogenous base attach with each other, it will construct nucleotide. Nucleotide is basically a combination of nucleoside plus sugar. So this is called as nitrogenous base plus sugar, that is nucleoside, nitrogenous base plus sugar plus phosphate group, that is called nucleotide. And this ultimately required for your Watson-Crick model of DNA or RNA. This thymidine monophosphate is required in the formation of DNA. That's why this, if sulfonamides inhibit this enzyme thymidylate synthetase, the conversion of uridine monophosphate to deoxythymidine monophosphate will not be possible. Thus, the accumulation of deoxyuridine monophosphate and the absence of deoxythymidine monophosphate will be responsible for killing of microorganisms. Without this deoxythymidine monophosphate, bacteria will not survive, DNA bacteria basically, and thus they will be killed. This is the mechanism of action of sulfonamides. This is how sulfonamides exert or exhibit their mode of action, mechanism of action. Okay. Ultimately, they are associated with one carbon pool. Why it is called pool? Because they are just, this is kind of a bridge, thymidylate synthetase, between uridine monophosphate and thymidine monophosphate. To transfer the methyl group from folic acid to uridine monophosphate to construct thymidine. Okay, so I hope that I am able to make you aware about the mode of action of sulfonamides. This mode of action is analogous as PABA, that is your para-aminobenzoic acid. And para-aminobenzoic acid is showing this kind of structural activity as well. I shall demonstrate that structure of if I draw the structure of para-aminobenzoic acid, then you will observe that it is as good as similar as this something what is called sulfonamide. So they also inhibit this dihydropteroid synthase enzyme, sulfonamide, and they prevent the addition of para-aminobenzoic acid to pteridine diphosphate, and thus they block the synthesis of folic coenzymes. This is second mode of action of sulfonamide. They also inhibit dihydropteroid synthase enzyme and this thymidylate synthase enzyme. Another sulfonamide that is dihydrofolate reductase inhibitor. This you will visit in anti-malarial drugs, trimethoprim. Thus, they will not allow the further growth of bacteria. That's why they are called as bacteriostatic action. There is a difference in between bacteriostatic action and this what is called bactericidal action. Bactericidal means to kill microorganisms, destroy microorganisms. That is called bactericidal. Bacteriostatic means stops the growth of microorganism. To stop the growth and to kill the microorganisms, both are different. Sulfonamides just inhibit the growth microbes. That's why they are termed as having this bacteriostatic action. So that may be one of the solutions for this mechanism of action of several sulfonamides. So this is basically a kind of chart which is explaining how sulfonamides can show their mode of action. Guanosine is here. That is through several steps it is converted into pteridine diphosphate. This is a ring by cyclic ring having 4 nitrogen into its structure attached with methylene bisphosphate diphosphate. So that is called pteridine diphosphate. This pteridine diphosphate, if it conjugates with para-aminobenzoic acid, look at this. This is an amphoteric substance. And both the functional groups, acid here and NH2 here. So that's why para-aminobenzoic acid is basically this amphoteric substance. So it is having acidic character also as well as the basic character. Acid is known for acidity, NH2 is known for its basicity. So both the handles, both the acidic and basic counterparts are present in PABA, aminobenzoic acid, and that's why it is termed as amphoteric substance. Okay. Acidic and basic nature. So now this dihydroteraoic acid that will be constructed finally from this. Maybe this is lost. How the way it is lost, that is not of our concern. We are not interested how pteridine diphosphate is converted into dihydroteraoic acid. Just we are interested what is the way of synthesis of tetrahydrofolic acid. The dihydroteraoic acid, now it will be converted into dihydrofolic acid. Why it is called dihydro? Because these are the two positions which are somehow kind of unsubstituted. They are hydrogenated. That's why it is called as dihydro. So this was a teraoic acid and now it is converted into dihydrofolic acid. Here there will be addition of glutamic acid. Okay. So this is a pteridine ring, this is a PABA, and this is basically glutamic acid. Let me draw it with the help of somehow kind of the pen. So this is a pteridine ring, pteridine diphosphate में. So this heterocyclic ring is basically pteridine ring. This is basically NH2 phenyl CONH, kind of this in some extra portion. This is basically carboxylic acid. It's none other than 2COOH containing glutamic acid. And finally, it is dihydrofolic acid. This dihydrofolic acid that is will undergo in the presence of this enzyme called dihydrofolate reductase, and dihydrofolate reductase will convert dihydrofolic acid. कन्वर्जन के दौरान क्या हुआ है कि यहाँ पे जो डबल बॉन्ड था here, so that double bond is reduced to single bond with the help of this dihydro. इतना ही फर्क है, उतना ही just differentiation. If we started from guanosine, pteridine diphosphate, dihydroteraoic acid, dihydrofolic acid, tetrahydrofolic acid. The key enzyme is, here it was, let us say, dihydroteroyl synthetase enzyme. Here it is dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. ये जो dotted lines है ना, these dotted lines which indicates this pathway is only applicable to bacteria. और ये जो solid line है ना, solid arrow, continuous arrow, non-broken arrow. So that is basically indicating folic acid in diet, and humans are dependent on that. We cannot synthesize vitamin B9 into our body. We cannot construct. हमारी बॉडी में ऐसा कोई मैकेनिज्म ही नहीं है कि हम फॉलिक एसिड को अपनी बॉडी में सिंथेसाइज कर सके. There is no mechanism, no pathway. These microorganisms, prokaryotes, eukaryotes, they have such kind of path. We obtain folic acid from our diet, and the major source is green leafy vegetables. The people who are taking all the kinds of green leafy vegetables, तरह तरह की जो सब्जी खाते हैं ना, उनको विटामिन B9 उनकी बॉडी में फुल होता है. That is present in up to some good level of concentration. जो सब्जी नहीं खाते हैं, શાક આપણે કહીએ ને ગુજરાતીમાં જેને શાક ના ભાવતું હોય, किसी भी तरह की सब्जी नहीं खाते हैं, और we are totally taking only non-leafy vegetable kind of this, then in their body there will be deficiency of folic acid, विटामिन B9. कभी कभी विटामिन B12 भी होता है, क्योंकि B12 साइनोकोबालामीन, that is also source of predominantly found in green leafy vegetables. तो आपकी बॉडी में जब ये ऐसा લીલા પાંદડા વાળા શાકભાજી જેને કહીએ તમે ના ખાતા હો, તો પછી તમારે ઇન્જેક્શનો લેવા પડે મોટી ઉંમરે, B9, B12 or whatever. Okay, so we obtain folic acid from diet. There are so many sources. Only I have talked about green leafy vegetables. We the people, vegetarian people, generally dependent upon this. And this in human, this part of folic acid having a structure like this, so that is converted into dihydro. फर्क क्या हुआ है, जो टेरिडीन रिंग में यहाँ पे जो डबल बॉन्ड था ना, that is now saturated. Here it is unsaturated having a double bond. Here it is saturated having only single bond. And यहाँ पे only this carbon and nitrogen was having a single bond. In tetrahydrofolic acid, at this position, both carbon and nitrogen as well as this are having single bonds. This is a difference for whatever we call as sulfonamides. Clearly remember the dotted lines that indicate this is a pathway which is observed in microorganisms. The solid line which indicates the path which is observed in human being. So thus, if you see that both the paths are different, microorganisms have different paths, human beings have a different path. What is the advantage? Advantage is that if you give a certain drug which will inhibit dihydropteroid synthesis enzyme or dihydrofolate reductase enzyme or this this synthetase enzyme which we have seen previously. So finally, it is not going to hamper the formation of tetrahydrofolic acid in human being. I repeat, the advantage of two separate paths is that if we give certain drug such as sulfonamide, so sulfonamide is going to inhibit dihydrofolate reductase enzyme, this dihydropteroyl synthetase enzyme, or this another synthetase enzyme which we visited here previously, imidylate synthetase enzyme. So these all are going to be inhibited only in microorganisms, but they are not going to affect anyhow this path in, let us say, that way sulfonamides are free, sulfonamides are safe, and the moment they are safe, then there is a low level of the risk of any side effects. So thus we can have such action. These sulfonamides, they are known for showing several kinds of activity against this they have broad spectrum of microorganisms. They are positive against, they can inhibit gram positive, gram negative bacteria, some kind of nocardia, and other protozoa also. What are gram positive and negative bacteria? You will observe your practicals of microbiology, where you will observe that microorganisms can be stained with the help of blue colored cell nail fusing dye. We use this practically in your microorganisms. You might have visited in your previous year as well. We can, those who are stained with the help of this gram stain, they are called as gram positive bacteria, and those who are not stained, these are called as gram negative bacteria. They differ from each other through the presence of something called this peptidoglycan in their cell wall. This is basically present in gram positive bacteria. That's why they are stained with the grams stain. And gram negative bacteria cannot be stained with this stain. So friends, some other microorganisms, Escherichia coli, Klebsiella, Salmonella, Shigella, bacterial species, they are being inhibited in these microorganisms. Some of them are drug of choice for toxoplasmosis, pneumocystis carini pneumonia, ECP, and other infections that they are given with fixed drug combinations. Many of these susceptible species and newer, they are also now resistance. Microorganisms develop the resistance. Why? Because they identify the mode of action of this. Just like I'm taking online class and you people are listening. But how do I know that you are really attending the class? I have no idea. ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि you are attending the class, you are listening to this, but मोबाइल अब उसकी जगह पे आप घूम रहे हो बिंदास मजे ले कर रहे हो. You have identified the way physically you are present, mentally you are not. Okay, so as a human being, you can develop certain mechanism where you can become resistant to the teacher. Then microorganisms can also develop certain mechanism where they will develop the resistance to the drug. So that way, microorganisms are also resistant. What are the strains? This meningococci, pneumococci, streptococci, staphylococci, gonococci. Focus is basically round-shaped bacteria. They are streptos and just pneumo means related to pneumonia. It can cause pneumonia. They are resistant. Their sulfonamides cannot be used. Resistance is the way. Resistance why it develops? Because the target of a drug will develop certain modifications into them structures because of the modifications into DNA and RNA, and thus they will develop resistance. So all these concepts are totally based on structures. So I was discussing that how the sulfonamides are PABA analogs. So sulfonamide is basically this SO2NH2. That is similar structure is there. Para-aminobenzoic acid. All NH2 is there. Phenyl group is there. फर्क ये है कि यहाँ पे जो COOH होता है वहाँ पे इनमें SO2 है, बट सल्फर का और एक कॉन्जुगेशन होता है एनिलीन के साथ. बाकी तो लगता है both are brother sister. That is what is called bioisosters, kind of similar natural metabolites. So just like peramino and benzoic acid will dissociate, ionize into carboxylate anion and H plus ion. This you have already learned during your organic chemistry classes. Even before that, during your schooling. Sulfanilamide will also dissociate into negative ion and H plus ion. So that's why sulfonamides are slightly weaker acid. They are also weaker than acetic acid. pKa, negative logarithm of ionization constant of weak acid, that is responsible for this ionization. So what is acetic acid, CH3COOH, is an organic acid. So organic acid has this pKa 4.8, sulfixazole has a pKa 5. You can assume how the way this is correlated. So thus, a similar way, benzoic acid can undergo ionization. Sulfanilamide can also undergo ionization. This ionization can be helpful for them to demonstrate mode of action, biological action. So with this, we will be stopping up to this class, and from the next class, we will be discussing all the way what are the side effects and other things which can be responsible for this also. Okay, so with this, we are ending the call. Thank you all. Thank you so much.